free time at the beginning where it's not ready. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Oh, has everybody stopped talking? The man from Marshall. Right, so when Jamie asked me to do this event, I first of all thought what I'd do is come here and just insult everybody, and this is where I started. And I thought that probably wasn't a good idea because I might not get out alive. But I then thought about what I actually meant behind that, and it's actually, I think that we've got a strange idea about innovation a lot of the time in our society, which is that innovation is something about plucking things out of thin air, whereas actually a lot of the time it's innovation equations, adding things that already exist, bringing things together. A simple example. Cinema plus radio equals television. It's a very simplistic thing. Television these days is fairly simplistic, so but you get the idea? Let's try another one. From the world of more engineering, the horse and carriage plus the internal combustion engine minus the horse equals the car. The horseless carriage, as it was known for the first few years of its existence, and it took about 20 years for them to stop looking like that without that at the front. You can also apply this to the world of the arts. If you take Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, add jazz, add dance, the magic of Leonard Bernstein, you end up with West Side Story, the only musical that is probably worth watching in my humble opinion. On the other hand, this can turn out badly. The songs of Queen plus West Side Story, or musicals generally, plus Ben Elton equals celebrating its 10th glorious year of never underestimating the taste of the British public. We will rock you. Yeah. Anyway, so then I had an idea, and the idea was that an idea plus sloth and general laziness plus social networks equals crowdsourcing. It was a Friday morning, so I thought I can get away with this because everybody's looking for something best to do, so I put it out there. I asked for people for suggestions. This was the first one that came back. I think probably is a little bit of bitchiness really, but actually a lot of popular music is mostly about merging together of things that existed before, and in this case the Gallagher brothers taking everything from the Beatles. This one is genius. Archimedes' screw plus Archimedes saying Eureka understanding the basics of water displacement plus a hotel equals the cruise liner. That was from Barry French, who I went to school with. I never thought he was very bright, but it turns out he is. This is real bitchiness. The X Factor plus, and I quote, the cultural black hole that is Nicole Scherzinger equals the end of Simon Cowell's career. Wishful thinking, one thinks. This was somebody else I went to school with. He really isn't very bright. He just said Pete plus beer equals mess. I realised that Pete didn't get the whole thing, but I just replied to him, Pete minus beer equals mess too. And I think that's what's known as a zero-sum equation. This one, however, is genius. Virus plus virus equals no virus. Principles of immunisation. That was from somebody who used to work for Microsoft and is currently not gainfully employed. This one came from a complete stranger and I'd never heard of before. If you take a normal catamaran, you take the wing off an aircraft and you stick it on top of the normal catamaran, you get a thing called a wing sail, which is a sailing boat with basically an aircraft wing instead of a big flappy thing. Probably the best textbook example, crappy glue plus bits of paper equals post-it notes. You would be heavily pissed off if you got back to your car and found that had happened to it, but I thought it was the best illustrative note. Right, MP3 player plus Napster plus the design genius of Dieter Rams, sorry, Johnny Ives, equals the iPod. Oh, didn't go well with the Apple picture, did it? That's not because I'm from Microsoft, it's just a general principle I have in mind. This is probably the archetype of bunging ideas together. If you add anything together and then put it with 2 bits of red plastic at the end, you've got the Swiss Army knife. That is a real product. They're insane, the Swiss. Radar plus a metal box equals microwave oven. Because apparently the people who are doing research on radar found their sandwiches were getting warm as if they left them in the wrong place in the lab. My grandfather was one of those scientists. I'm very proud of that. Yeah. Right, Filofax plus personal calculator equals first generation PDA. PDA minus keyboard plus a pen equals second generation PDA. Take one of those, take away a pen, add a telephone, you get a smartphone. Smartphone plus growth hormone plus keyboard minus the telephone. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't tell you about that. The hyperlink. Now, a couple of examples of things that I could think of which didn't seem to have any precedent to them. The hyperlink I really struggled with, but then a friend of mine said, well, it's just indexes plus computers, isn't it? And I thought about it and he said, well, yeah, I suppose it is. That, however, I can't think of anything that made up that. That is a piece of genius. However, there was only one without any precedent that came back from the crowdsourcing. Therefore, I would say to you, ladies and gentlemen, this is the greatest invention of all time, the corkscrew. And with that, I say good night.